Bartlett, he's here, he stepped out of the room. Cook?
Here.
Hopkins?
Here.
Bud?
Here.
Odenhill. Aaron Scott? Bill Scott? Wankle?
Here.
Ormowski?
Here.
Williams?
Here.
Mayor Izzard? Here. City Attorney Beer?
Here.
Yep.
Thank you. City Attorney report.
Thank you. A couple of items that I've got on the agenda, and I'll mention one other. Discuss collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police. These are all three bargaining units, the command, the patrol, and the civilian employees. We talked about this a bit earlier. We've got a 4-year contract proposed with each of the units, 2% increase for 2019, 2.25% each of the next 2 years, and then final year of the 4-year contract at 2.5%. Beyond that, the only changes were very minor. For example, if you're working the night shift, you're getting, instead of a $7.50 stipend for your meal, you're gonna get $8.50, it's going up $1. Aside from a few changes like that, it's the same contract that we've had in the past with that scale as far as the wage increases. It was a very quick negotiating session. I say that hesitantly because we've never been through one like this where we were able to sit down with the union rep, Jerry Lee. I've never met with any of the command or patrol bargaining units themselves. Jerry talked with them, came back and said, this is what we're proposing. They had a shopping list to begin with, narrowed it down substantially after our first couple of conversations, and I think they would be the first to say they've got a good contract, much as we feel they do. So let's just take care of the salaries and otherwise go. So that's on the agenda for approval tonight. Second item is discuss amending the liquor ordinance. This has to do with the fairgrounds license. We had a presentation a little while ago.
Yeah.
The operators, Deb Casson operating the racetrack concession, was asking to be allowed to serve alcohol as well as beer and wine, both at the races and at events throughout the year, because they're getting more and more events, either race people having banquets out there or other organizations. For example, I believe Diversified Services from right across the street wanted to have theirs there this year, their Christmas banquet. So the proposed changes to the ordinance are kind of twofold. One, that alcoholic liquor, meaning beer, wine, alcohol, and spirits, whatever spirits are, it's still in our ordinance, can be served during the fair in the enclosed areas, and the fee for that would be $400 for the license for the year. That's an increase of about $100 from what they're paying right now. The fairgrounds racetrack license, which would allow serving alcohol at the races, although they indicate they're not gonna be up in the stands selling alcohol. They still have beer up in the stands. You can come downstairs and get a mixed drink if you want, take it back up with you, both at the races and at the other types of events that they'll have. That would be a fee of $13,750, I believe it is.
Treat it like a regular.
$13.75, I should say, not $13.75, to treat it basically like a regular tavern type license, although obviously they're not open every night. Any questions about that? Because that leads me into my second part that's not involved here. Under my agenda in the regular council meeting, we have item number 2, establishing liquor license fees, and item number 4, establishing fees at Lake Jacksonville. All we're doing there is reapproving the fees that are currently in place with the second reading of the Muni Code, where we're adopting the entire new municipal ordinance. That ordinance says fees, for example, for liquor or licenses or for parks and lakes would be set from time to time by the council. Since we're adopting that now, I didn't feel comfortable that we would still be relying on something we passed prior to termination of our present municipal code. So that's what those two are, and the new rates for the fairgrounds and the racetrack are included in that schedule. Likewise, the schedule for parks and lakes fees, item number 4, under the regular meeting, is simply restating the fees that are in place for various parks and lakes activities. Any questions on any of that? I'm done.
Committee reports tonight, finance, IT, and personnel, Alderman Cook.
Oh, okay, previously we had a finance committee meeting and we discussed the appropriation budget for, 2019. That, if my figures are right, $41,918,058.90 is the appropriation, and that includes the, purchase of the 2 fire trucks. Right?
Mhm.
That's right. And that's on the agenda tonight for its first reading. And the second reading will be later in the next council meeting, so.
Very good. Next on the agenda is Parks and Lakes. Alderman Martell's not here. Steve, you wanna read that or?
41,118.
Parks and Lakes.
Discuss renewing intergovernmental agreement with the state of Illinois. So what telling you?
This is just the use of the state engineering buildings over there. We've used them for several years. We have a workshop in there, a wood shop and that type of thing. They let us use those buildings is all this is.
And the present agreement expired right at the end of the year,
Yes.
so CMS wants us to go another
Another year.
5 years on it.
It's 5? Okay.
Good.
We paying seamless anything for it, or is it just?
No, it's just a trade. We help them, we pick up their limbs and some of their down trees and stuff throughout the JDC grounds. In return, they let us use these buildings.
Okay, you know where I work. Did you just say that's a trade with CMS? Okay, just wanted to verify that.
Bad choice of words there.
That doesn't work in my world, thanks.
Andy, there's one more add-on
Yeah.
that should be there with Parks and Lakes. That's the discussion of Western Illinois Youth Camp. Lease.
Yes.
It's listed under resolution, but we were gonna discuss it
Yeah,
in the
please
workshop.
do. I just saw it on the agenda.
If you don't mind, Dan and I have looked at the Western Illinois Youth Camp agreement. This year, it comes due every 3 years, just commonplace, but this year they've asked for 5 because of Hamilton's involvement. Hamilton's I understand, wants to make some improvements and advertise some things and that type of thing, that they would just prefer it be a 5-year lease, so their investment, is somewhat protected with a longer term. Also, the only other addition that we added, there was a little bit of a, not really a problem, but a little bit of misunderstanding, I think, with a hunter out there that had gotten off onto Western Illinois Youth Camp's property. So we just added a sentence that says, leasee shall not rent, sublease, or otherwise use the premises for anyone for the purpose of hunting, trapping, etc. So there's only certain areas we allow hunting and trapping and that type of thing. We do not want to have that included with this property. So we just put that in just for clarification, so that way nobody's confused. That's the only changes with this, and we would prefer to get this approved if we can. And I believe it's up then for first, for the resolution.
Yeah.
They put it on there, we were gonna discuss it.
Yeah, it's under the consent agenda, so.
Yeah, okay. Any questions I can answer about that? This is just their regular lease agreement. Okay, thank you.
Planning and Public Works, we're down to Mr. Hopkins, would you like to
You're
do
looking
that?
at me, Andy, I don't like that. All right. Number 1, discuss 2019 MFT street maintenance program. Who we pointing at, Les?
Sure.
Jim? All right.
I'll sit right down. Good evening, everyone. I have for tonight for your approval, the approval of the 2019 motor fuel tax maintenance program for the city of Jacksonville. This is your oil and chip program along with salt and some storage materials. The area of town that we'll be doing this year will be kind of the south and west. It'll be an area from Lincoln Avenue out to about Locust and south of College to Morton. So it's that quadrant, along with some areas in kind of the north central west, would be an area from Brookside over towards Diamond, between Lafayette and Walnut Cedar. That'd be like Friedman and Dayton and Elm and Maple, back in that area. So those are the two areas that we have this year to do. Then we'll be moving back over to the east side, and then we also pick up what we need through the course of the year. Total program for this year is $188,817.96. That includes your oil and chip, your snow removal, which is salt, our services, and a couple bridge inspections. I will put a bug in everybody's ear. This is an original resolution. I think with the winter that we're seeing so far, we may see an amended resolution later on in the spring, after everything's thawed, where we may have to be doing some additional work. I was just talking to Les about that, so we're gonna keep that open. I'll have some discussions further as I have additional information. Any questions? The material will be, like we've used before, it'll be the slag, the gray stone, looking stone, and slag. It holds up real good. Use it with polymer oil, no bleed.
Thanks, Jim. Number 2, discuss the demolition of 203 and 205 East Morgan Street.
Mr. Hall.
I'll take that, Jim.
Thank you. All right.
If you guys, most of you can recall, we discussed this back in April of 2018. And at that time, you were in agreement to move forward with the demolition of Big Brother, Big Sister property, as well as these. Well, we got Big Brother and Big Sister down, that was not a problem. We've moved on now, to the Morgan Street properties, and we're concentrating on getting those demolitions completed. The difficulties that we've run into have been dealing with the asbestos in the buildings and the condition of the buildings. Right now, we're unable to have an asbestos abatement company go in and try to do testing and/or removal of any asbestos because the roofs have caved in onto the second floors. The building is not anywhere close to safe enough to have a company in there doing asbestos abatement. So what happens in a case like that, you declare the building an emergency situation, and all the debris is hauled away as contaminated debris. It runs your costs up somewhat. It has to be treated, especially at the site. It has to be hauled, especially to the waste disposal site, and it has to go to a landfill that is certified and licensed to take contaminated debris. So with that all being said, the company that gave us the bid last time is still not scared. They're still willing to participate with us, but they did, as you can imagine, rebid the property as contaminated debris. The bid came in, I believe you've got the copy. It came in at $238,000. That's for both structures hauled away, and the site then cleared and backfill and reseeded. That's actually not too bad a bid concerning everything that they'll be doing. When they get close to the wall where Mr. Scott's building is on the corner, that'll have to be hand demolished. I mean, they'll have to be very gentle and careful with that adjoining wall. And then when we get the buildings demolished, we'll have to look at the condition of that wall, and we'll have to do some type of treatment to make sure that it's weather tight and can stand on its own. Obviously, something similar to the type of block that was used on the old Gustine's building when that building was demolished on one side. The split face block, you know where I'm talking about, cattywampus from the old Toad? All of that wall is a cover wall from a demolition, and the split face block does well with that. But we may have those additional costs once we get the building demolished and we see what kind of structure is there with that combination wall. Everybody follow what I'm saying? Because we don't know what's gonna be there and how stable and everything, but we know we're gonna have to do something to make it weather tight and make it last. So with this cost, there will be some additional when we decide on how we wanna treat that exposed wall.
Their
Okay?
cost is just to remove, then we'll have to have somebody else come in.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. We'll kinda assess the situation then, Jeff, and see the best way to move forward with that. This can all be accomplished with TIF funds. This will not come out of the general fund. Demolition and cleanup is an eligible expense with the tax increment financing district. So we can use TIF funds if you so choose. Right now, in the TIF account, there is $626,000. So we will not be jeopardizing anybody for projects or anything of that nature should we get applications in the near future while this project is going on. So, there is ample money to do it if you wanna go this route.
What was the original bid before the contamination? Debris thing?
I can tell you that. Let me get to it here. I thought I had that.
Was it like half as much?
172.
So it's up like 30,000.
Well, 172 to 238 is the
That's
increase.
60-some thousand, but the difference is because it's.
Contaminated debris.
When did the roofs cave in, do you know?
Oh, they've been caved in for years.
So in a situation like this, like, who's the previous owner? Do they have any responsibility, or are they just long gone, or how's that?
Yeah, they're long gone. We actually assumed ownership of the building so we could get it demolished, correct, Dan?
Control it, basically.
Yeah.
At one point, if you recall, we had some possible interest in someone trying to fix them up, but
Yeah, but how long has the city owned those now?
just a couple of years.
Yeah.
Couple of years. Yeah, we need to clean them up because they're a hazard.
They're a bad safety hazard. They scare me to death. We need to get them down and get them out of there. And then maybe, we get a clear sight, maybe something good can come along and happen at that location, so, downtown.
I think it's good, that's.
You guys get a bunch of old men having cancer, and having zero responsibility.
Do we need a resolution for this?
Thank you, that's what I was gonna
We'll do
look
that
at
next
too.
week, it's not on the
Yeah,
agenda.
okay.
Yeah,
We
it's
need a
not on the-
resolution approving or accepting that bid for the demolition.
Anything else that I can answer about that?
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
Okay, thank you.
Number 3, discuss municipal services department surplus vehicles.
You want me to take that?
Well, I could discuss it, but what are we surplusing?
There should be a list, but, this is a joint surplus, utilities and street department have some vehicles that have been sitting idle, with the recent purchase of some utility vehicles, they've got some trucks that are sitting there, that are usable. Les has some vehicles that may not be usable. We're gonna pick and choose which ones are usable and which ones are not, and then, maybe somebody will like them, and we do a sealed bid and have it that way, but I know that for years the council's been, hey, we don't want these vehicles sitting around, and we've done a lot better job the last couple of years of not sitting idle and getting rid of them, so that's just
Move on,
part
get
of it.
rid of them and.
Move on.
That's the best thing to do.
Quit giving them to the parks when,
We don't want them.
Kill it,
They don't
come
want
on, you don't want
No.
that?
He just
We
got
just got rid
his.
of 4 of our own.
Fire department, need a new truck?
Oh, no.
so that's just part of the process.
Thanks, Andy.
Public protection.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have just one, and that's discussing hiring of 2 probationary patrolmen for the Jacksonville Police Department. I have the chief here, and I'm quite sure that he has something he would like to enlighten you with.
Yeah, so it's kind of becoming a repeat request, it's 2 patrolmen here and 2 patrolmen there. No, these are not in addition to our staff, these are just fulfilling our staff. We're short 2 officers right now. We had 2 surprise retirements in December, and we're just asking to replace those officers.
And how many officers will you have? What will that bring the council to?
41.
Still down.
any questions on that? It's a good time too, because we just redid our eligibility list in the summer of 18, so the list is fresh with applicants.
So there won't be a retesting, you just start calling.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And I have 2 slots. I have 1 officer reserved that we just hired previously for an academy in March. And, I'm unsure if I'll be able to get somebody else into that academy or not. So, academies are filling up around the state really quick at the beginning of the year. People have money in their budgets to hire police officers, so it helps to get them in there as quick as you can.
Very good. Utility, Alderman Walkle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 items tonight. Number 1, discuss engineering proposal for the Pasnet Drive Walnut Street Sanitary Sewer Lining Project, and Mark Sorrells is here to tell us what's gonna happen.
The engineering proposal covers all 4 tasks. Task A, surveying through Task B, construction. Along with this, since it's a specialty project, Jack would like to waive the bids, the bidding process, and go with proposals like we did with Town Brook and Delaney Drive 2 years ago. Any questions?
Nancy, no issues with it.
Mhm.
We've done all the others, that's fine.
Thanks, Mark. Number 2, discuss surplus vehicles. I think the mayor pretty much covered that. I think I got 3 in the water department. 1 Jack has that he's unsure, he may have to be scrapped, but, the other 3, I think, we're gonna work with other departments to get rid of.
You had what, 4 or 5 of us?
3 trucks and a water truck. One truck I get rid of, one of the old red truck Bill Scott used to drive. But that
My
young
Lord.
Let's see if he wants to
He's
buy it.
retired again.
He's been retired in the city since what,
Yeah.
03?
Well, it went out to Tony and then somehow we got it.
Yeah. Alright.
It's old.
Tried to get
Just
it
have a
up.
horse hitch on the front.
Yeah, just scrap that thing.
You probably- I think it was.
Get that bill.
We should just give it to Bill. Here, Bill.
Put it in his fleet.
Yeah, just take it down to the yard.
Yeah.
Driveway.
He'll fix it up though. Okay, any public comment at this time? Very good job, Les, this group of, I know it's been a tough couple days, hasn't it?
Get on the phone with you.
But it's, you guys, you know, it's not from lack of effort, you've done a
It
good
was
job.
tough snow, it was tough, I mean.
Yeah, it's,
a lot
it
of
is.
snow.
You had asked me how many manpower hours in this weekend.
Oh, I ain't sit down to it, I ain't had time to figure it up yet. I know we worked 12-hour shifts from the time we started until yesterday at 6 o'clock. We finally quit yesterday at 6 o'clock, thought let's just take Sunday afternoon off or evening.
How many trucks do you have running?
5 and then 2 motor graders.
Should cheat.
And it has, and like we joke internally, it had to be on the weekend again.
Yeah. Supposed to get more this week.
Oh, yeah, we saw the forecast, let's not even talk about the forecast right now.
Yeah.
Any other business? We will adjourn and go into the business.